Welcome to the Cult Classic Horror Show. Every week, you can have the conversations you've always wanted to have about the films you love.
Shut up!
We're gonna get you. Not another peep.
Get rid of your distractions and prepare yourself.
Then lock your door. 5, 6, gonna crucifix.
You got a big surprise coming to you. You're not going anywhere.
Welcome everybody to the Cult Classic Horror Show. Danny Bonin here with you, representing for the Blood Brothers, along with
The Rob,
and special guest, but almost reoccurring now, Mr. Carmelo Chimera. Welcome.
Glad to be back, guys.
Covering because Scotty just had a baby this morning.
Yes.
Amazing. It's wonderful news.
Yes, Scotty just had a baby at 5-something a.m. this morning, Mountain Time. He is still at the hospital. Did not get a chance to watch Gremlins 2 or be on this podcast. So thanks.
Ready for Carmelo to chime in. I hope your first child is a masculine child.
Those of you, everyone should know by now, but Carmelo is a co-host on the Cult Classic Action Show, which is available to you if you become a patron at patreon.com/cultclassichorror. So yes. Do it, because we just covered Die Hard for Christmas, and we're going to be doing Bloodsport next.
Yep.
I thought we were doing Lethal Weapon.
No, Bloodsport.
I was fairly certain this was Lethal Weapon.
I started the damn thing so we could do Van Damme movies. We're doing Blood, and we haven't even done one yet.
We should do Hard Target.
Oh, we'll do Hard Target. Don't you worry.
and Kickboxer.
Oh, yeah, Kickboxer. Glass on the
man,
knuckles.
that's a real underrated movie.
Tong Po. Yeah.
I know it's a shameless plug, but I just want to say I think it's a real sweet patron reward to have a whole nother show. I mean, that's like, normally Patreon stuff, it's good. It's just always like little extras or behind the scenes stuff or just kind of expanded stuff you're already doing. You produced an entire separate program for patrons, and that's awesome. So
well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, anyone who listens to this should chime in for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, come listen. I think we only have like 20 people there right now listening, but we need more.
Yes.
Alrighty, well, here we are, Gremlins 2. Just continuing on the Gremlins train into the new year because why not? Gremlins 1 was a Christmas movie, so we covered it in December. 2, not so much, not a Christmas movie, but this is the one, like you were saying, I think, Carmelo, because you were on the last podcast with us because Rob couldn't be here. I think you were saying that this one, in some cases or in some opinions, might even be better than the first one.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I know I definitely pushed in the last podcast. I pushed that you do this one next, and it is kind of a nice segue, like out of Christmas and back into normal horror movies, because that first one is Christmas. And I think Gremlins 2, the older it gets, I think the more people realize that it was better than the first one, and I would say one of the better horror comedies ever, actually.
Yeah, well, it definitely is a horror comedy, that's for sure, and it makes fun of itself so much in there, even to the point where, they stopped the movie to have Hulk Hogan, fucking restart it again. And then even within the movie, they're like reviewing the first one and giving it a bad review. Like, it makes no sense at all that they're acknowledging that there is a first movie within the movie. Like, it doesn't make sense to the plot whatsoever, but they still do it anyways. Yeah.
That's what's so like wonderful about it. This movie, it makes fun of itself. It makes fun of the first Gremlins. It makes fun of movies. It makes fun of sequels. It makes fun of a ton of other people that I'm sure we'll get to. But I wanted to throw in now, because you reminded me, that scene with Hulk Hogan interrupting the movie. Did you know there's actually an alternate version of that scene that was only on the VHS release? They filmed an entire separate sequence where the Gremlins take over the movie, but instead of it looking like the film reel burns up, they made it look like the VHS spazzes out.
Cool.
Yeah, and then like the Gremlins take over your TV and they start. You can find it on YouTube. I'll put it up on in the Facebook group later. But you can the Gremlins take over your TV and they're flipping channels until they get to John Wayne, and they splice together a shootout between Gremlins and John Wayne, and no Hulk Hogan on the VHS. It's like a totally different thing they did.
That's fucking awesome. Yeah, no, I did like this movie. It was very entertaining. I know Rob probably hated it. He hates every movie. I don't even think Rob watched this movie, to tell you the truth.
It stinks.
To call this a movie is a dishonor to it. This is a film.
Oh,
nice. Yes.
This movie breaks down walls. It goes over so many things that were happening in the 80s and 90s about, conglomerates and big business and consumerism. I got nothing else. It was good. I don't know if I could say it was better than the first movie. I'm going to say that the first movie was very wacky and funny too, but they definitely turned it up in this. I still think it was very good, but I think it's kind of tied with the first movie for me. The first movie is very nostalgic, so you get the warm fuzzy watching it. In this movie, not as much, but it's probably more entertaining. It definitely has more fun to it.
The first one gives you that cozy feel because it's around Christmas. It's cold and snowy outside, and so if you like that kind of isolation feel, which I love actually. If you just tell me there's a movie out and it's new and it takes place in the mountains or in the forest or in some snowy landscape, I'm just gonna watch it. I don't even care what the fuck it's about, I don't know if that goes for anyone else. If there's a certain setting, if you're you hear it's a post-apocalyptic movie, you're oh, I'm watching it. Or if you hear it takes place on a beach, for me, if there's isolation involved, I'm gonna watch the movie.
Yeah, I don't
know why.
I've got a recommendation for you then later, but I'll save it for the what we watched segment because I don't want to take us too off topic now. But
yes,
I think to Rob's point, I think this movie, not only is it nostalgic the way the first one's, I think, very nostalgic for people, but this movie almost feels like it could have been made today in reference and homage to the 80s. It's hard to believe that this came out in 1990 because it's almost like it knows what's going to become a nostalgia trigger. For example, all the Gremlins playing with Legos in the Lego store,
yep,
or Gizmo watching Rambo 2 is it's like they knew that one day we were all going to grow up and watch this movie and be like, oh, I remember the 80s.
Yeah, no, it definitely, and me being an absolute 80s fanatic, it does that for me. But a part of me almost thinks that when they made the first one, they had an idea of what they were doing, and whatever worked really well, they said, okay, we're gonna turn it up and go full blast with this movie, which it worked. It's very out there. It's really fun, and in no way does it even attempt to take itself seriously.
Yeah. Well, what's funny? A couple of the main things I noticed in differences between these two movies. I think that the main characters are on their way to not aging well. First of all, yeah, I think
Phoebe Cates did not age well.
What? Phoebe Cates is gorgeous.
She's like Sandra Bullock. It's just
can we just talk about Bird Box later, please? Can we not bring that up right away?
This has nothing to do with Bird Box.
That's all I see all over the internet.
I gotta watch that movie.
I did. Well, we'll get to it. But Yeah, well, I like I told you, Rob, Sandra Bullock might be getting close to Teresa Tillion age, and they both look pretty haggard.
I beg to differ.
Man, I'm with Rob on this one. I don't know what yardstick you're using there, but my yardstick tells me that both of them are aging very well.
I think that's true. Actually, I'm just talking some shit. But what I was going to say, the other difference is I feel like it's funny. We talked about the first one's rated PG, and it totally fucked the rating system because of that. Because it's definitely not PG. And it pretty much brought up the PG-13 rating. And now this one is rated PG-13, but I don't think it's nearly as gruesome as the first one was, as far as, I mean, just that whole sequence right when the mom runs into the gremlins and she instantly kills like 3 of them, and one's in the microwave and one's in the blender, and weren't they, I'm trying to recall,
triggering Danny's OCD.
Yes, exactly.
About who's going to clean up this mess.
I'm trying to recall, but there wasn't like bright green fluid for blood, but I don't remember there being red either. It was more like black, maybe, in the first one or something that was shooting out and stuff.
I feel like there were some different colors for the blood, but I think that the gore is a good example of how this movie differs from, but I think kind of improves on the first one. I think the first one is gorier, and I think we maybe see a little bit more gremlins like injuring people. But in this one,
definitely that was like there were gremlins tearing people up in the first one, and this one not so much.
Yeah, and in this one, you do see like the gremlins all melting at the end, or the gremlin that goes to the shredder, and it's super, super gross. But it's like a fun gore now. It's like it's almost like this other horror comedy I love. Maybe you've seen it, Evil Dead 2.
Yes, I think I've heard that one.
Yeah, I think it's come up.
Yeah, when they turned the blood green so that they got their R rating.
Not a fan.
Get the fuck out of here! Best horror movie ever made is Evil Dead 2.
Maybe the best movie ever made.
Yes.
I mean, Bruce Campbell's mediocre at best.
Get the fuck out of here.
Fun fact, Bruce Campbell is now officially the host of, I think it's Ripley's Believe It or Not.
I saw a little article on that. Yeah. Well, he's still working. Well.
Yeah, but he's taking the Dane Cook route.
Oh, did Dane Cook host a show?
He hosted Ripley's Believe It or Not.
He did?
After they canceled the USA Superman or whatever, the Adventures of Lois Clark. Not Dane Cook, Dean
Kane.
Dean
Kane. Lois and Clark,
okay.
The New Adventures of Superman. Not that I know.
I would have known if Dane Cook was hosting a show.
Damn it. Well, I mean, but yeah, no, it's like he had, I mean, honestly, the Burn Notice thing, that's the only reason I could even stomach watching Burn Notice is because Bruce Campbell's in it.
Yeah, I've never seen it. Maybe I should check that out.
It's really not worth it. I mean, just watch Army of Darkness like I do if you're getting the Jones.
Well, I had my Jones satisfied when I saw Bruce Campbell at Last Man Standing live in Denver on Halloween.
I can't believe you didn't try to touch him.
There was no chance whatsoever. I could have rushed the stage.
Did you have major security?
No, it's just that he came out on the stage and he was gone like a flash of lightning afterwards.
Oh.
And that was it. And I just wasn't, I didn't have enough Comic-Con knowledge to get up on stage and be one of the contestants. Have you heard of that show, Carmelo?
No, I actually haven't.
It's pretty cool. You go, he tours it. So he tours and, so he came to some smaller theater in Denver, and so you go in the door and you're given this clicker, and it's got like A through J on it or something, letters, and there's buttons for each letter, Yeah. So everyone who shows up gets the clicker, and you start the round by they put trivia up on the screen, and the trivia they have. Well, once you get contestants up there, there's like 4 or 5 subjects. It's horror, sci-fi, I think, and then superheroes and something else. There's like one other category, and then it's just all things that you would find or know, like people would at a Comic-Con would know,
Oh yeah.
So it's just all this trivia, and so you start with the whole audience playing, and then they ask like 13 questions. Once round one's over, they then take like the top 4 who did the best and invite them on stage, and they have podiums, and then no one else is playing anymore. It's just the 4 contestants, and you like buzz in like Jeopardy. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then if no one on stage gets the question, they open it to audience, so they raise their hands, and then Bruce will pick someone, and then if the audience gets it, he'll throw them some like signed shit by Bruce Campbell, And,
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome.
so it's cool. My cousin got a signed thing. She answered some question. No one in the fucking building had any idea what the answer was. I don't know how she got it though. I was like, all right. Someone like they had to ask the audience what his girlfriend's name in Army of Darkness was. Sheila. Like no one was getting it. Then like the audience wasn't even getting it. I almost got that one.
Oh my god, bunch of posers.
I know. So, anyways.
Filthy casuals. Yeah. Anyway, back to Gremlins.
Yes, back to Gremlins.
So one other thing that really stood out to me that I think sets it apart, not apart from the first one because it really needs the first one to be able to do this, but I love all the different Gremlin designs. They're awesome. The lightning Gremlin, the spider Gremlin, the bat Gremlin, like they're super cool.
Oh, the spider gremlin gave me nightmares.
It's creepy, isn't it? It's freaking creepy.
Nightmares.
That actually gave like Spider Gremlin and like Harry and the Hendersons completely destroyed me as a child.
What?
Harry movie destroyed
Oh, yeah,
you?
I know what it is. I'm unclear on Rob's. Rob, it's not a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
It's living in Florida where the Sasquatch is real. It was a terrifying movie.
I see. So you were terrified. That's what kind of boy you were. You're terrified of Harry and the Hendersons. Me, I just got scared by seeing The Exorcist, and
Oh, I got terrified by seeing The Exorcist as well. But Harry and the Hendersons was like my brush with true horror. Like it absolutely it did absolutely terrify me. Like Harry and the Hendersons ruined me. And then the 1990 miniseries of It. Caused me to be terrified of the bathroom. So, I would like hold it till I almost like shit my pants because I was terrified of the sink.
I used to be terrified.
Bathroom.
I was sort of terrified of Nightmare on Elm Street when he came up through the tub.
Oh, so it's terrible.
That was when I was like 10, that was for me. But anyways, so speaking of some of these characters that the Gremlins take on, I guess Gizmo mimics John Rambo with his little fire dart and bow made from office materials. Apparently, the permission was granted by Sylvester Stallone for them to use this likeness.
He probably gave himself a writing credit.
Yeah, he probably did. Yes.
I was the one that came up with the gerbil, Gizmat.
Gizmat.
I'm going to need an executive producer and writing credit on this.
I just want to say in the beginning they tear down the guy's store to build that building, or I don't even know if it was that building, to build a building, and it wasn't that building because it's a whole Oriental building. But they don't even clear the store out. They just start tearing it down. Who does that? Who doesn't clear out the store first?
I mean,
that's a good question.
this was the 80s, man.
There's antiques in there. There was at least a TV with a VCR, and in the 80s, that shit, that shit.
Oh God, how much was a VCR in 1983?
I don't know.
Like $1,500.
Probably, and especially a TV too, that size, a good old fucking 27-inch TV.
Oh, I remember. Oh my God, I
but
remember.
is it 27-inch screen or
massive,
27-inch deep?
Well, probably both.
I remember the TV we had in our playroom growing up as kids with our Sega Genesis. Massive 32-inch TV. You couldn't even wrap your mind around how massive it was.
I remember having this. My parents were, they were buying TVs at a time when it was in fashion to have the gigantic cabinet around.
Oh yeah, big screen.
Yeah.
No, or you mean like shelving?
I'm talking about like set into a wooden.
Oh yeah. I had one of those.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I remember they pawned it off on me. I mean, I was living at home at the time, and they bought a big screen for the family room. So I kind of got to take this other one up to my room, and this thing must have weighed like 300 pounds. It was so heavy, and I remember when I finally did get rid of it, moving it down the stairs, thinking, this is how I'm gonna die. This is
Yeah.
I mean, I've moved a lot of heavy furniture in my time, with the comic book stores and stuff. I've moved some crazy stuff. This television was the closest I've come to certain death. It was terrifying.
Were you moving it by yourself?
Well, I had a friend, but and so I wasn't going to have my friend be underneath of it because if the television fell and crushed him, it would kill him. And so I was going to take
that. And being a lawyer, you knew you take the liability for that.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, I wasn't an attorney, but at the early seeds of my origin started there. I could see the lawsuit forming, and one might say that's when it started. I just was standing underneath of this thing, trying to prop it up, and I'm like, if I slip a little bit, I'm going down. This thing's going to land on me, and I am going to just blood is going to pour from every pore in my body.
Oh, we had one of those built into a cabinet televisions for way too long. You pull out on it to turn it on, and it was it was like way too long.
And that's why you had it too long, because it was so dangerous to move that it was.
I kind of missed those. I'm going to be honest.
That was like a piece of furniture. It was like a freaking armoire.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like the ancestral TV.
Yeah,
I mean, it was an heirloom.
I mean, I'm sure we just tossed ours into a dumpster. Like, we should have kept that thing. I probably had cat piss all over it because of my parents' old house, but still.
To this day, whenever my
your
dad
parents
sees,
just let their cats piss on everything.
Oh, dude, my house I grew up in is just a cesspool of cat piss. We had like 14 cats at one time.
Whoa.
Yeah, they were all outdoor cats / indoor. Like 6 of them were like indoor, and the rest stayed outdoors all the time because they just kept having babies, And we just lived in a neighborhood. Like, we didn't have a farm or anything. So.
Well, you know what that sounds like, having 14 furry creatures running around peeing on everything.
Gremlins too.
Sounds a lot like Gremlins too.
It does. See, we tied it in.
Yeah,
we tied it right. Yep. We tied it right back in. Just before we leave the TV topic, I think my dad, when I was like in elementary school or something, I think he financed one of those big screens, the boxy ones, for like a normal big screen TV when they came out. I think he financed one at Sears for like $4,000 when it came out. And now they're like, my brother, when he moved, he couldn't like give it away for free. He's like, someone please take this TV. Anyways, Gremlins. So they didn't tear down the store. I'm just looking at my personal notes before I go back to some trivia here. But Christopher Lee, not only Christopher Lee, but they had a lot of actors in this.
Yeah.
A lot of recognizable. The guy who, playing Dracula is recognizable. I forgot his name already, but he's recognizable.
He is recognizable, yeah. Even under the makeup, yeah, he stands out.
Yeah. But yeah, Christopher Lee. I mean, that was awesome to have him in there, and they even like some of the angles they shot on him. You could tell they were really hamming up the classic horror vibe for him. They even had some of that organ playing for him in a couple parts.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, they had that like upward lighting in his face and stuff. Like they knew exactly. Well, by the way, Dr. Catheter. Anybody catch the name?
I did not.
That's terrible. Yeah.
You got
Robert Foskey is Dracula.
Yeah. He was in Christine, and he's been in a couple other things too.
Yeah.
But and then also, just I noticed the delivery guy, Raymond Cruz is his name because I wrote it down. Is in Alien Resurrection. So there you go.
Wow. You know what else he's in? I don't know if I mentioned this to y'all before, but have you all? Yeah, I have the concept of the Scumbag Book of Actors. You know what I'm talking about? It's not an official thing, but you ever see some actors and you just know there's a book of scumbag actors out there that whenever they need to cast a criminal, the actors are probably fine people, but whenever they need to cast like a thug or a sleazy businessman or whatever, they go to the Scumbag Book of Actors.
Oh yeah,
and that guy, he's in the Scumbag Book of Actors.
Oh, he is for sure. I think
him and Michael Ferrara.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, Rob knows what I'm talking about.
Ferrara.
He's always the bad guy. He's always the weasel.
Yeah,
in everything he's in, he was the weasel in RoboCop. It goes. That's the number one. I think he was in Leviathan.
He's in Twin Peaks. He was in.
Okay.
When I was a kid, he was the bad guy in a movie called Blank Check. That was.
I remember Blank Check. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. But and he's a good actor who I really like, so he's a good example. But he's often and almost exclusively cast as scumbags. And if he's not the bad guy, he's still a scumbag. He's just a lovable scumbag.
No, I think that this Raymond Cruz fits in that book. I might have even seen him in like Breaking Bad or something like that. I don't even remember, but. Yep. So I recognize him right off the bat.
I do love the swarthy, like, uber rich CEO in this with the great hair. He was also in Scrooged, which I just recently.
That's right.
He is like the quintessential, like, stockbroker, director, producer of the 80s and 90s with silver.
He's basically Gordon
silver
Gekko,
suits.
Yeah,
except he's fabulous.
Yeah.
He's great. He was great in Scrooge, the fast talking, come on, very California.
Yeah, I like how they made him likable, because like you had this idea that he was going to be this huge asshole who only cares about himself because of the people, because of his subordinates. That one guy was an ass, like his number two guy or whatever. But then you meet him and he's like totally oblivious and just like awesome,
Yeah, I actually think you're right, because I thought he was going to be this like villainous. Oh yeah, how can we use these gremlins for profit at the expense of everyone in this building?
Yep.
But it turned out to be that even though he was quite the entrepreneur with when he did see Gizmo, he's not that sinister. And he sometimes he says some scummy stuff like, oh, imagine the lawsuits.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when they all charge in with like armor and guns at the end, he's with them. He's a freaking billionaire, and he's charging it with the SWAT team.
I did wonder how
good.
that
and his
how he
little
pulled that off.
redhead assistant, the little assistant with the glasses that follows him around. Like it was like a good love story. Like I hope they make it.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Bloodstone? Maria Bloodstone?
Yes.
Yeah. Haviland Morris. I think she was in 16 Candles.
Yes, I believe she was.
She was cute, except for the smoking all the time. But
Agreed.
Yeah.
But it was like a contractual obligation to smoke in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, she just lights up right in the top of the high-rise building there. This.
Oh, it was just better times back then. You could smoke in doctors' offices.
Doctors would smoke with you. They'd light you up.
This movie's taking me back to Skyscraper when I watched Skyscraper not too long ago.
I gotta see that. It looked good. Yeah,
it's pretty good. It's a lot of CGI, but it's pretty good. They both got smart buildings. They're both smart. And sort of taking me back to Die Hard that we covered for Christmas.
Yeah, it definitely felt a lot like Die Hard. I could see
we got this high rise going here. Anyways,
I'm actually surprised there wasn't any more overt reference to Die Hard. You think Gremlins 2 would have?
Yeah. I mean, they were very close to one another.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't quite. Die Hard wasn't quite in the zeitgeist the way that like Rambo 2 was yet. So they didn't.
Which is the superior Rambo.
Well, I haven't watched them in forever.
We're gonna do those in the Cult Classic Action Show, but I have just so many feelings about Rambo. some of them sexual. I'm not gonna lie. But yes, but most of them about the films, and I have a lot of things I will share with you there.
I thought with this being a smart building and everything, when you get in the control room and the guys in the control room, it just sometimes I watch these 80s movies and it just makes me laugh, like what they thought it would look like 20 years from then. You know what I mean? You just have these large lights blinking and buttons, but they still have these blocky computers, and I guess technically it wasn't supposed to be set in the future. It was just supposed to be high tech. So I guess we can forgive him for that.
Oh, I think it's also kind of what I was getting at earlier when I had said this movie was almost like it was made after the 80s and inspired by. It's like the 80s version of what the future would look like. And it's just a very particular style of future. You see it in Back to the Future 2. You see it in I don't know, Blade Runner. Everybody like in the 80s is trying to imagine what the future looks like. And to a lesser extent you see it in RoboCop too. Yeah. And that's part of the charm of it, I think. this building's super smart. It's probably as high tech as or more than some buildings we have today. But they have the gigantic room size computer switchboard.
Yeah. Well, and I think some movies, the darker sci-fi movies, it's easier to relate. Like you mentioned, Blade Runner, and probably like Alien and Aliens. I'm not saying they like got it right, but it was more believable in those films, than these blinking large things.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
So, goodness sakes, son of a monkey's asshole.
Holy shit.
That means it's time for the horror halftime. Horror halftime. All right. We do have a winner. We started fresh. All you guys that have won can now win again. And I'm surprised that we announced that, and there's only a couple memes that got submitted. So let's get back on our game here, guys. I know we took a week off. That probably threw everyone off. Everyone probably forgot we even existed. But here we are. So our horror freak of the week is... Scott usually does my drum roll. Lansdale, horror freak of the week. Lansdale with his meme of was it? It wasn't David Martin's meme because I didn't really even understand it. David Martin, sorry, man. I know. I love that you had me as a young child reading Alien Resurrection, but I didn't get the last part. Yes, Gizmo as Howie Mandel with the earrings and a goatee. That was awesome. So
it was so good.
While we are talking about Lansdale, I do want to throw out a congratulations because his daughter is now cancer-free.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Last treatment coming up. Daughter's cancer-free. That's awesome. So if all you guys who are listening already probably know because everyone's friends. That's what I love about the CCH tight-knit group. Everyone is friends with everyone, and they've made some awesome friendships, and we're all pretty tight. There's not too many of us, but we're all pretty tight. So congrats to Macy.
It's such a cool thing.
That's her name, Macy, Lansdale's daughter. So congratulations.
Congrats, Macy.
So Lansdale, you are the winner. Just shoot us a message on the CCH page, just so that I know that you heard this, and then I will send you something you don't have. You probably have a couple shirts already, but we'll make it more interesting. I could print on other shit, so we'll send you something you don't have already. Cool. I don't know what we're doing next week yet, so I usually say what we're doing and to get the memes in, but we'll figure it out. But get your memes in next week from Gremlins 2 so that you can be horror freak of the week.
Yes.
All right, that concludes the horror halftime. You scared yet, Rob?
It annoys me. That movie was one that really ruined me as well. That was bad.
It was pretty scary. I saw the first Grudge in theaters, sitting pretty close with like a group of girls, and they were definitely fucking freaked out. It was one of those movies where like you have to laugh after each scare because there's like 1 or 2 or 3 guys in the movie theater that are like yelling, because they're so scared.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever had that in a movie theater. Like, there's a jump scare, and someone it's the same guy like throughout the whole movie. It's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny you say that. I went to see a live production of A Christmas Carol just before Christmas,
all right.
Which I know you've been to 700 of those in the last month.
Yes, of course. 31 in like 20 some days to be exact.
Oh my God.
Anyways.
A lot of Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
So there was a guy behind me at a Christmas Carol who had that reaction to the effects. This like older man. I thought at first he was kidding, but every time like the Ghost of Christmas Future would appear, and the guy went, oh, and I just thought it was the funniest thing. As if he had never heard the story, and he had really just jumped every time they did some effect. And I think it was high production value. Some of the stuff they did was pretty cool, but there was nothing in it that was like. There was no explosions. It's a Christmas Carol.
Yep.
That was really great.
They should redo A Christmas Carol with explosions and Sylvester Stallone.
Yes.
Oh my God, yes. It's not been done yet.
I will say,
Well, it's probably because he hasn't worked out how to get a writing credit for
that's
Charles
true.
Dickens'
Christmas Carol. Yeah, I will say that in the production we did, I did play Ghost of Christmas Future and Present, because you play the present, there's actually lines in the song and stuff. Future, you just stand there and point in directions. So you just throw a fucking hooded like robe on and do your thing. But we did scare the shit out of people because Scrooge's bed is like up against the headboard is like up against a wall that has a black curtain on it, so it's all black and curtain looking. And so when the scene starts, I'm already standing against the black curtain in my black robe, so you can't really see me. And it's like low lighting, and he wakes up, he's like, oh, I can't see you. And then the bell tolls, and it's 3:00, and he gets up and starts looking around. And then he starts walking away from the bed, and I just come off the curtain and start like stalking him. And so because no one noticed me there until I started walking away, we had a ton of those reactions, like kids or moms or people. And it's a small theater going, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God.
Awesome.
It was so
awesome.
funny.
That's a great bit. I like that.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. So just had to throw that in there. All right. Let's get back into Gremlins here. We're in the second half of our discussion here, so I'm going to start throwing in some more trivia here. One part that I did like was the building owner basically jumped to the conclusion that the world was ending right away.
Yeah, I love that broadcast.
Yeah,
we hope you enjoyed life.
Yeah, well, and I guess that the filmmakers included that because they found out that CNN has like a broadcast that's similar to that, just in the archives, and its staff is instructed to hold the video for release until the end of the world is confirmed.
Oh my
that's
God!
awesome.
What would that even look like to confirm the end of the world? Who gets to say, you know what?
Yeah.
That's it. I'm calling it.
That's what I want to know, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, because it wouldn't be the end of the world, or they wouldn't be able to broadcast anything. So it would have to be like the end of Western civilization as we know it,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
They also. Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
On that note, the guy Clamp is his name, the John Glover's character. He apparently is inspired by two real life folks. One is a Ted Turner. I don't know if you guys have heard of Ted Turner, but he's like a big time, like multi-billionaire media mogul type. And if I'm not mistaken, he owns CBS or whichever network it was that had
He used to own Time Warner Cable, I thought.
Yeah, I think that could
Yeah,
Turner, I think too. So
he's married to Jane Fonda. Or
maybe was he the creator of Turner Classic Movies?
Yes.
TCM.
Yeah,
it sounds like all that stuff might be him. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. He has a big ranch, actually outside of Tallahassee. He's a big, like, avid, outdoorsy hunter, fisherman type guy. Avalon, that's the name of his
Maybe
ranch.
if you get lucky, you'll get picked up in a van one night and then set loose on his property, and he'll be hunting you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather like him than Jane. Apparently, Jane Fonda is very unhinged.
Oh, he'll just throw you. You'll be able to. They'll give you an ATV and then make you wear like dreadlocks and go blackface. So that.
Oh, of course. I mean, I do that already. This is the South.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and
so he can reenact. He can reenact surviving the game. One of my favorite movies as a child, surviving the game. Ice-T, represent.
I haven't seen that movie, but I've
never seen Surviving the Game?
I have not. I've read the Ray Bradbury short story on which it is almost certainly based.
Okay,
Most Dangerous Game. But
okay, other favorite classic, No Escape with Ray Liotta. Ever watched that one?
I've
never seen that.
That's a TNT afternoon.
Oh, dude, that is a total TNT movie. It's a total movie for guys who like movies. They basically put him in prison on this island, and this island is like, I don't even remember all of it. I think it's like divided into like two factions or something like that, and he gets taken in by one of them and becomes their leader. I don't even remember.
It's semi-autobiographical.
Yeah.
Ray Liotta.
Yes. Anyways, all right, moving on. I was gonna
finishing. I want to finish real quick. My thought about Clamp. He's also loosely based on Donald Trump, which, not to get like too political, so I don't want to go that way. But I guess more
We're
like
all
80s
here
era.
trying to make America great again.
Oh god.
Well, more like 80s era
Carmella
Donald
had
Trump.
taken off.
Oh, I'm totally just gonna brush past that. But like the name, Clamp and Trump is it's like a direct reference to Trump. And he's also that was his thing, was he was like a real estate developer for the most part, especially in the 80s. So that's kind of where they're going with this Clamp character. Anyways, wanted to throw that in. I didn't mean to take over, but we're going to kind of move away from that, I feel. So
all right, let's get into a political debate here.
No, wait a minute. I thought you said we're not going to do that.
I guess the scene where the Gremlins are in the Spice of Life lab, which is with Christopher Lee and everything.
Former Superman, Christopher Lee.
Yes. Yeah. What?
You either missaid or he misheard Christopher Reeve, and so.
Yes.
Okay.
Christopher Lee, who's paralyzed, former Superman.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah. Now he's flying.
Still,
free.
Spice of Life lab.
Yeah, Spice of Life lab. Yes. I think if you're paralyzed in life, you still are when you go to heaven.
Oh my god. What?
The monkeys in the lab were generally so terrified of the gremlin puppets that they refused to leave their cages. So they were going to do more with the monkeys, but it just didn't work. So
that is ironic, because if you remember in the first Gremlin, they almost used monkeys to play the ones. That's right.
Little 180 there. Monkeys are afraid of gremlins. And we've already been talking about Superman. The aerial opening shot of New York City was stock footage from Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, 1987.
Oh, nice. Which is the most I think anyone's ever seen of that movie.
Yeah, I think so too.
Except for me.
Have you seen all the Superman movies?
I haven't. Indeed. That movie's not good.
No.
I'm getting very grim because The Quest for Peace is let me put it this way, it's worse than Alien Resurrection.
I don't mind Alien Resurrection. I'm just going on record saying that.
Is it worse than Exorcist Part 2?
That's the question.
So I haven't watched Exorcist Part 2 because y'all put me off of it. I listened to every episode you did on The Exorcist. I went out and got Exorcist 3, and it was amazing.
Yes.
Good.
And Exorcist 2, not so.
Though
karma got me, because my family had seen that I got excited about Exorcist 3, so they made sure to buy me Exorcist 2 as a birthday gift that year. I was like, all right.
So you have it, but you haven't watched it.
Oh, yeah, I just haven't seen it yet.
Oh, yeah, that is definitely the bad stepchild of that series. Even the beginning was, fucking awesome. And the other one that was, weirdly, the beginning. What was it called again? Exorcist?
Dominion. Yeah.
Dominion, yeah. It's I think Dominion...
That I've seen. That was bad.
I think Dominion, I think the beginning was a lot better than Dominion, even though they're, the same movie, but with a boy instead of a girl,
Yeah, the beginning just there wasn't anything special, but it was a decent flick.
Yeah. Well, the girl was creepy.
Dominion
the girl was creepy.
Weird.
Yeah. Well, I will say though that there were some pretty bad CGI hyenas in beginning, but that's all right.
And not one single shark.
Not one shark. No.
That
Rennie Harlan.
Goddamn shark in that whole movie.
Yep. There should have been a shark in the well. Anyways.
Can I just say, I think Exorcist 2 is the biggest disappointment to me, because that movie could have been the Godfather 2 of horror movies. It could have been, and they tried. There's a back and forth story with Father Merrin in the past, and can you just imagine? Think of how good Godfather 2 is with Robert De Niro as Vito in the flashbacks, and his rise to power mirroring Michael and Al Pacino in the present, and just imagine how good Exorcist 2 could have been, and it's really sad.
I know.
I'm more of a Carlito's Way and myself.
No, it could have been something, and it's not. Instead, it's a bunch of stupid fucking hypnotizing with annoying ass lights, and 79-year-old Father Merrin climbing rocks with a hideous CGI background. So yeah,
that's
it's
just
really
awful.
bad. Anyways,
I mean, it wasn't the worst thing.
it was the worst thing. It was pretty.
I still hold fast that the worst movie ever made was Martin,
yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
or the original Crazies.
Yeah, those are both pretty bad.
Did
but
we talk about Leonard Part 6 yet? Because that's the worst movie ever made.
Leonard?
What is Leonard Part
Oh, I
6?
see. We haven't talked about this yet.
No.
Perhaps a special episode or a Facebook viewing party is in order if I can figure out how to do one of those. But Bill Cosby made a movie called Leonard Part 6. It was supposed to be a children's movie, and it came out in the maybe late 80s, something like that. It's abominable, and it features, I'll just give you the highlight reel, Bill Cosby riding an ostrich, Bill Cosby fighting lobsters with butter.
This sounds awesome.
It's
I'm going to admit that you're really selling this to me right now as a good movie.
It is a rite of passage, and the thing is, like, back then, it was, when I saw it, when I was in high school, it was okay and fun to make fun of Bill Cosby. And now it's okay to make fun of him, but in much meaner ways. Like, you can't actually like Bill Cosby now because he's a rapist piece of garbage.
Yes.
Well, I mean, allegedly.
He never touched Rob.
Well, no, not allegedly. He was found guilty, so that's not a. We don't.
Well,
need to say allegedly.
I mean, you know as well as I do that those were false allegations brought on by the Illuminati.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
and that lots of innocent men go to jail for.
Sound like Rob has a history.
Yeah, listen, Rob. I'm
trying to get the podcast. I'm trying to get the podcast on a watch list. Anything that'll be pro Bill Cosby. We've already mentioned Make America Great Again. I'm coming out steadfast as pro Bill Cosby.
Please just don't say the word nuclear, and then we'll. Oh shit! I said it.
You said it. You said
this
it.
is one of those episodes that Carlito will not invite his family to listen to. Carmelo will be like, no.
Every episode something comes up. I wanted to send Gremlins to my email list, and then we had a whole Judd jokes about children in alleys, and I was like, I can't text my grandma about that, so no. Now we're talking about Bill Cosby, and you're pro Bill Cosby, and I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with Rob. I'm just gonna move on. You already
text CCH.
You already mentioned that they did for a little bit. They did where the VHS was malfunctioning in the movie, and it says that many rental copies were returned as a result of this, and video mastering houses called the filmmakers to ask them if this was intentional. So that's probably why they stopped doing that.
That is so stupid.
I know, it's so, and Warner Brothers wanted the sequence cut about the movie real fucking up because they thought in theaters people would actually think that it was fucking up.
You know how many poor kids got their asses beat for that? Yeah, I told you not to touch the VCR. I told you not to touch it. I'm the only. Now look at it. It's all messed up. We're going to Hollywood Video right now.
How freaking dumb do you have to be? Because it fools you for like half a second. At first, yeah, absolutely, the screen fritzes out. But it's not 2 seconds later, gremlins are on the screen making shadow puppets with their hands.
That was a whole bunch of dads like me that were like, I'm going to get a refund on this rental. Watch. I'm going to go in there and tell them.
Yeah, I call bullshit. That sucks.
Yeah, it's that's just dumb. It's people.
I believe it.
I mean, there are people that are that stupid.
Yeah, there are, and that saddens me. So.
Yes.
Yeah,
well. Look. When Christopher Lee was cast in this movie, one of the first things he did was apologize to director Joe Dante, who also directed The Howling. We talked about that last time, I think. He apologized to him for appearing in The Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf. I think he should have just made a public apology about being in that film.
Just making that film.
Yeah, it was so bad. So I forgot that he was even in it. That's how bad it was.
Did you do an episode on that one?
We did. We did on all the Howlings. Yes.
All the
We didn't we, Rob? Didn't we cover all of them?
Unfortunately,
there's like 6 of them, I think.
Oh yeah.
How did I miss this?
There was marsupials in one.
Oh yeah.
What?
Like vampires in another one.
The worst is when the newscaster turns into basically a chihuahua, but she's supposed to be a werewolf.
Yeah, it was like a Pomeranian.
There's some really bad stuff in the latter movie. Not even from number 2 on. Even there's just some really bad stuff.
It did not. I mean, it really went downhill. And then when they got to Australia, I mean, that's when things really just kind of took a turn for the worst.
Oh, dude, that movie like never ended. And then it was like towards the end, it just jumped to like 15 years later. It was like, what the fuck just happened? What? It was really weird. It was. Yeah.
Wow. I'm speechless. I listened to most of the episodes, and I listened to the Howling episode. I don't know how I missed like a half dozen other episodes on Howling sequels, but it sounds like maybe I didn't miss much.
Yeah, no, you don't. You definitely don't need to. I mean, maybe watch 2 just so you can hear Christopher Lee say "Steerba" like 8 times.
Oh, constantly
Steerba, which is pretty
nice.
And there's like a werewolf orgy, but
which is not bad.
Yeah.
Is it as good as the Werewolf Orgy and Trick or Treat? Because I love that movie.
Oh
no, because Anna Paquin's gap teeth distracted me the whole time.
Wow.
What?
You know, you just continue to test the bounds of my friendship with you.
I have not received one Italian beef sandwich from you yet, sir.
I mean, I was going to say, what do you want me to do? Mail it, but actually,
I'll take it in the mail.
Yeah, I could send you guys Italian beef. Maybe I will.
I want shinshi, whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah. You know what? For all of you who've been following along, Scotty and Danny both asked me if I would have cannolis on Christmas, and I'm, a giant walking Italian stereotype, whether I like it or not. And sure as shit, my parents brought cannolis over to my house on Christmas.
Ooh.
And
so awesome.
And then my aunts went ahead and made the spingies that I told you about. I took pictures. I'm going to put them in the Facebook group.
Yes.
So, yes, I had a very Italian Christmas. Thank you.
Did someone's father hit their mother? And was there, like, reprimanding?
No, there was
those are Long Island Italians. There's a completely different breed of Italian.
Okay.
Between Long Island.
Have respect, particularly for our elders and for our spouses. We have a lot of respect there.
That's true. And I guess it would be maybe the kids. Did a dad hit one of their kids?
Well, it wouldn't be Christmas unless a dad hit a child.
No, of course not.
Our kids know better than they behave.
Yes.
We got to shit together with the kids. They know better than to screw around.
He sounded
like he channeled his father right
there.
He
did. He pretty much did. Yeah. They know if they fuck around, they're getting it.
You're screwing around with the VCR again, and I've told you 100 times not to touch it.
Warner Brothers opened this movie directly opposite Dick Tracy in an attempt to keep the box office record set by Batman in 1989 from being broken, says Joe Dante. Would they really be worried about Gremlins 2 beating out Batman?
When nothing could beat out the 1989 Batman.
Yeah, that movie was a positive sensation.
Yeah,
I will say Dick Tracy, by the way, is a fantastic comic.
Warren Beatty is awesome.
So is the video game for the Nintendo.
Oh,
yeah,
God,
it is.
It's a good game.
Al Pacino at his best.
Yep.
Yes, it is a good movie, Batman. Although, looking at the time, Michael Keaton was an awesome Batman, but now, looking back on, was he really the best choice for Batman?
Yes, 100%.
I mean,
he still is the best choice for Batman. He can still play Batman.
He's not muscular at all or athletic.
He's not supposed to be muscular.
Batman's not supposed to be athletic.
Look, if you were a billionaire, you're not going to the gym 24/7.
Oh, that's all I'd be doing if I was a billionaire.
Well, I mean, that's just because you have a love obsession with The Rock. That's
well, I mean, we would be besties.
I mean, I'm sorry. I stand fast on this that that 1989's Batman is hands down the only good Batman movie.
What about Christian Bale?
What about Christian Bale?
What about Batman Beginning? The beginning. Beginning.
What about Gravel Bat? I'm good.
Gravel
I'm good
Bat
with his grumbly ass.
I guess you're right. No, it's true.
I feel like I have to hold
Christian
back
Bale's
here.
Batman is a cartoon Batman.
What
It's
about
not
Val
the real
Kilmer?
Batman.
Oh my god.
Oh, Val Kilmer. I mean, I think Val Kilmer would have made a good Batman if Joel Schumacher wouldn't have got his dirty little dick beaters on that movie.
All right. Fair enough.
Nipple bat. Disgusting.
I'm gonna hold off
Okay,
because
you do
Rob
that.
gave me so much to respond to, and I feel like as like the token nerd on the podcast, I feel like everyone's expecting me. All the millions of fans out there are expecting me to debate the Batmans with Rob. I'm not gonna do that. We came to talk about Gremlins. Suffice to say, Rob, I agree with you about Michael Keaton, but I disagree with you about Christian Bale. That's all.
Christian Bale is God.
You should know me by now just by listening to the show. There is no debating me.
You know I'm an attorney, right? I do this like for a living.
Rob's like an old
professional debater. This is like I get trained every day in this.
Rob just sits in a corner with his arms crossed like an old
never
man.
Changed my mind. That's the other thing. Like I have incredible willpower.
Oh, so now you're the Green Lantern. I see.
Oh,
Yes.
that was a good movie.
I thought so.
I just like Ryan Reynolds. Why do we always talk about all these other movies?
I don't know.
He brought up Ryan Reynolds, and he brought it up only because he's trying to distract me.
I know. Well, you are distracted easily by Ryan Reynolds.
Who is not distracted by Ryan Reynolds? You need a map to get out of his eyes.
And I thought that stuff I said about Stallone was homoerotic, but I'm pretty sure Rob's got me beat.
Yes.
Ryan Reynolds in that bathtub in Amityville Horror. I'm sorry. Like,
yes. It's pretty. Yeah, that's a good movie.
Well, so what else do we have for,
Okay, well, sorry, let's get back into this here. Warner Brothers immediately wanted a sequel, but Joe Dante had enough Gremlins for a while. Work still proceeded on without him. A studio approached various directors and writers, and they had different storylines in mind, such as Gremlins in cities like Las Vegas or even the planet Mars. All those felt,
awesome.
Yeah, I think that would have been pretty cool. Mars Gremlins.
we could. I would have preferred to have Gremlins like do that stuff than the Leprechaun. Like, I'd much rather have Gremlins in space than Leprechaun in space.
Well,
I would, but I want them both, right? Because I want Gremlins in space to make fun of all the horror movies in space.
In space, yes, exactly.
You know.
The studio finally asked Dante again, who agreed on the condition that he'd be allowed to do anything he wanted. Well, I don't know what that means, but anything he wanted. He also received a bigger budget. In the DVD commentaries for Gremlins 1984, in this movie, Dante stated that he felt that this movie was a case of waiting too long to capitalize on the success of Gremlins, which hurt the movie's chances of success. So, 84 to, 90? So 6 years?
Yeah, 6 years, yeah.
So I guess that is a little while for the hype to die out from the first Gremlins.
Well, I mean, nowadays we're making sequels and prequels to movies that are 40 years old.
Well, you see, at some point, there's like a fine line, It's like you make it, I guess, well, you don't see that anymore. I guess back in the day, it was like you make it right away, you capitalize on the success, which I guess would probably still be relevant today, but we don't really see that as much, except for maybe these series of movies that are almost pre-made, sort of like maybe some of the Lord of the Rings, although I still think they even waited a couple years in between each one. Or even the Harry Potters. They had like a schedule because they had planned to film them all. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
So there's probably that fine line where that works. You wait 2-3 years and you capitalize on the success. And if you miss that window, it's almost like, well, now you got to wait like 15-20 years because then people are going to get all amped and psyched that it's like coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If you do it at like 6 years, 8 years, they're like, that was a while ago. I don't really remember that well, and it's not like so long ago that it's a classic that is cool to know about.
Well, I think also back then in the 80s and early 90s and 70s and everything else. But I mean, I think also it was a competition because you're competing against, for the most part, a lot of new original ideas,
Yeah.
like nowadays, I mean, it doesn't, nowadays you're really just competing not so much against ideas, you're competing against Disney, you're competing against a studio, or something like that. And a company can, nowadays that's what people do. You can come out, I'm not an expert on it, but I mean, Marvel and other places, just like you said, they literally just announce a timeline. Look, you're going to have this many movies come out at this time with these characters. Star Wars announces we're guaranteeing you so many movies. And what you have in the background is other studios just buying up rights to other things like The Crow or Ghostbusters or Overboard or anything else. So I think back then the competition was stiff. Like Lethal Weapon and Die Hard had to make sequels every couple of years. Yeah. Otherwise something else would happen. Yeah. Some other action movie is going to come out and beat you. And if you want a franchise, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah.
I wanted to say also, I saw this in the opening credits that Rick Baker did the effects, which of course he did the effects also. Well, Chris Wallace and Rob Bottin turned it down. I think Chris Wallace was the one who worked on the original Gremlins. So Rick Baker was not interested at first because, he would just be seen as like a predecessor to Wallace because he wasn't the creator of these creatures, but persuaded to accept the job when it was suggested he could make the Gremlins and Mogwai more diverse, which they were. They had more personality, like you were already saying, Carmelo, in this. So it gave Rick Baker the chance to fiddle with it. And I will say, I think that they did look a little better this time around, the actual creatures themselves.
I think, I think they did too. Maybe it was just because it was 6 years later, but there are certain shots in the original Gremlins that they look like they're made out of Play-Doh. Like the latex didn't, or whatever they used, it didn't move very well. There was very stiff. Whereas like this movie, not just all the cool spider stuff and everything else, but they just seem to be more realistic.
Dude, Tim Curry was considered for the voice of Brain Gremlin.
Oh, that would have been great.
What the heck?
Who did the voice of Brain Gremlin?
I'm actually not really even sure. I saw the name on the credits, but I don't know.
Tim Curry doing his devil voice from that Tom Cruise unicorn movie would have been cool.
Tom Cruise unicorn movie?
The Tom Cruise unicorn movie.
I'm just not really sure what
How
you're talking
have you not
about.
seen the Tom Cruise unicorn?
Chris Wallace did decline this. He was the creator of the original Gremlins. He chose instead to create the effects for and direct The Fly 2,
which is pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know if I've even seen The Fly 2.
I haven't, but I've heard that the effects are famous.
Oh, they're really gross. They're really good. Eric Stoltz stars in The Fly 2.
Oh, they got I didn't even realize this. They have the Wilhelm scream in this movie. We've talked about that before. It's like the famous fucking scream that was originally, it's in Indiana Jones. It's like, I think that's
all over Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I think it's the most well known for being in Indiana Jones, but it's in like, I don't know, you can Google that and there's like a count. It's used in like 400 different movies or something, the Wilhelm scream. Wow. And
good. We need to put that in our movie.
Yeah. It says a victim is covered in gremlins and he falls off a ledge. It's used in this movie.
I need to get that as my text message tone.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
I need to do this right now.
They also cut some scenes because Steven Spielberg thought there were too many gremlins. I mean, the first movie we had that complaint from the studio that there were too many gremlins. And, Steven Spielberg made that smart-ass comment, well, we'll just take them out and rename it People.
Yeah.
And now he's saying there's too many in the second one.
I mean, there were like 1,000 gremlin at the end. It was crazy.
There was a lot. And, Chris Columbus, we talked about, who founded America and wrote the script for the first Gremlins. He also... he was unavailable to write this script because he directed Home Alone.
Which, thank God, that's an American treasure.
Yes.
My wife and maybe our favorite Christmas movie, probably next to A Muppet Christmas.
Yeah, I didn't watch this year. I wanted to watch it this year. Fuck.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
too late now. You can't watch Home Alone unless it's Christmas.
I don't know. Maybe.
More of a National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation man myself.
That's true.
It's the best, and it was written by the greatest writer like of all time.
Neat.
John Hughes.
Who also wrote
everything in the 1980s.
Oh, everything?
Basically everything worth watching.
He wrote Home Alone, he wrote Uncle Buck, he wrote National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles.
Holy shit.
Wow.
What was the other one he did? St. Elmo's Fire.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I'm not sure if he was involved with that. But no, I mean, for the most part, yeah, like John Hughes owned the 80s.
All right. Well,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I had a couple other closing thoughts. One note I put here when the gremlin's in the trash can and apparently he like spits on his face. It really looks like he just jizzed all over his face.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty
when he grabs him there. And then that story that Katz tells about her being
hilarious.
in the park. What the fuck was that? Was that just because she told a stupid story in the first one?
Yeah, so remember we talked about how weird it was, and certainly they talked about how weird it was at the time that she gives this speech about her dad dying on Christmas from Santa Claus. And so this was making fun of that.
That's what I thought.
And when it started, I was... For like a second, I'm like, why are we doing this? And then I remembered that thing from the first movie, and it was just great.
I immediately thought of that. So it was obvious that they were making a play on that. Because, it was so... She, did it real quick, and it was so what? What the fuck?
Yeah. At first, I thought I'd missed something. She's like, "Oh, don't start about Abraham Lincoln." And I was like, "Did I miss an Abraham Lincoln gremlin earlier in the movie somewhere, with a hat on or something?" Mm-hmm. And then she starts looking off in the distance. I'm like, "Oh, here we go."
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh man,
we me and my wife watched Gremlins together, and that story, the whole father down the chimney, it did nothing for her. She was like, "That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard." Like he got what he deserved. Crawling down the chimney like that.
That's true.
And I think that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I was damn, you're pitiless. This poor man.
You're like, honey, that's really harsh.
Well, that's all I got for Gremlins.
I think my closing thought, piggybacking on what we just talked about, my closing thought is I considered taking notes since I just watched it today. Consider taking notes the way that you do, Danny, about little things you notice or funny things or plot holes. And I realized that this movie's full of that stuff, but none of it seemed noteworthy to me because this movie is very clear from the start. Like the Looney Tunes opening is part of the movie, and right from the start, this movie's not supposed to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And because it knows what it is, you don't ever feel like you got to call it to task for anything. At no point was I like, "That's dumb. Why don't they do that? Or why don't they do this?" Because it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it knows,
I agree. They went all out. It's very good. I mean, I don't know who could not have seen this movie, but if you haven't, it's definitely a high recommend.
I hadn't seen it till now. So
really?
There you go. Yeah, I'm not. You know what? I'm just putting this out there. I'm not a big. Well, you already know that I don't like dolls. Like the Chucky franchise is not my favorite, and certainly Puppet Master is just they're just not scary. And
Puppet Master, Jesus.
It's sort of, you know what?
Flashbacks.
You know what? I hated it so much that I started to love it. It's almost like here we are, just doing Puppet Master. It just feels like home.
Feels like getting your balls caught in an outboard.
Yes.
Should we do the what we watched?
Well, yeah, we should. But what I was going to say is that I don't like the dolls, and so.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I thought it was the Carmelo show.
And so that.
have
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was the.
Oh, just
the
because you filled in for me one time, you're going to take my job?
Rob's getting sensitive.
Yeah, if you're gonna get serious about his job, Carmelo, you better start not watching movies, hating every movie, and just in general being a downer.
I am not a downer. I am a fucking ray of sunshine.
Sorry, guys.
I was finishing my thought saying that with the dolls, sort of in my mind, are related to like gremlins, critters, just any little creature that is like small and not super scary. They're just not really my thing. I just don't like flock to see those types of movies. So that's why I haven't seen it before.
You think the gremlins were scary?
Not really. I think if I saw a gremlin, I could easily manhandle it with my bare hands and twist its neck off.
Not if it's a fucking spider.
Still, that spider looks pretty weak.
Yeah, I don't know. I see your point about the dolls, Danny, but man, these gremlins they're covered in fangs and spikes and stuff.
Yeah, but they're just not. I don't know.
You're not scared of spiders?
Not really.
Oh, well, you live in Colorado.
I mean, I don't want to be covered in spiders, but
you don't have them Florida spiders like we got down here.
I'm just like, I guess you could tell.
We got cockroaches that fly. Like, I mean,
well, I know what you got down there. I guess I'm the kind of person that, like, if I feel a spider on me, like something crawling on my arm, like I try to slowly look to see what it is before I just like immediately go and freak the fuck out. You know what I mean?
I was going out to the garage. I stepped on one that was probably about, I don't know, like the size of a Pringles can lid with bare feet and it popped. And I knew exactly what it was when I stepped on it. I fucking
bare
shrieked.
Feet? Did you have blood? Did you have goop on your foot?
Oh yeah, I had the goop and everything. I slid on it. I kind of slipped when I hit it. But see, that's what I'm saying. And you talk about like a spider that probably weighs. Like, you know about a spider like the size of a German Shepherd running around? Like, no, they'd be unstoppable.
Yeah,
the military would have to come in.
I've killed one in the middle of the night on my back before.
Oh,
it wasn't huge. It was probably like nickel size, you know. But like I woke up, so I did the slow thing. I woke up in the middle of the night because I felt something on my back. I was like, "What the fuck?" And I like slowly reached back and just like sort of mushed, you know. And sure enough, I killed a spider. I pulled my hand out and there's a dead spider in my hand. It's like, fuck.
That's all really awful.
I know. Isn't there like some statistic that so many spiders crawl in your mouth? You'll ingest so many spiders. That's not true.
That's one. Actually, it was an experiment in the early days of the internet to see if things could go viral. So they spread this. Yeah, they did it as like an email chain to see, and sure enough, it caught on.
Yeah, because I think I would
It's completely true.
I think I would notice a spider. I'm a light sleeper. I would notice something crawling up my neck and cheek into my mouth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways,
maybe the mutant aggressive spiders that Rob lives with down in Florida are maybe those fuckers can crawl into your mouth.
Yeah, we got like 5 different poisonous ones here that you could just go dig around in the backyard and find.
Maybe you should just come to Colorado.
Eggs in your chest like xenomorphs.
Oh God, I'm not sleeping tonight. Not without a muscle relaxer.
All right.
Just talking about spiders like that.
All right. Well,
willy nilly talking about like. It's so God.
Well,
I mean,
now because I'm ready and I want to move the show there, we're moving on to our last segment of what did
Rob,
you
this
watch?
segment's looking pretty good right now. Huh?
All right.
I was in a public bathroom at like a wildlife management area in Central Florida, and I was cornered, pants down, by the spider had to like weigh as much as a can of Coke. It was like a tarantula type spider, and it saw me and I saw it, and it just wouldn't friggin' move. And I was probably in there for 45 minutes.
Wow.
At least.
And then you finished shitting and we're in there for another 15 minutes.
I had enough time to like reach down into my pocket and like grab my phone and take a picture of it just to document my death.
So people know what happened. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Gremlins are what's your fucking Gremlins? What did you watch? What were you going to recommend to me, Carmelo?
Yeah, I wanted to recommend this. You may have heard of it. It's called We're Still Here.
I have heard of it. Oh, no, wait.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it. Wait, have I seen it? Is that the one where the burned family?
Yes.
Yes, I have seen it. It's a good movie. Yes.
I know a lot.
Yes, it was one of those that I just randomly picked, and it was like good.
Yeah, I think I've seen it too.
Yeah, it was good shit. But yeah, they're like in a house sort of out in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah, out in the middle of like a snowy New England setting is why I thought of it, because you'd mentioned you like that. And I thought, it's pretty tense, and then it gets super gory. And, it was one my wife and I had picked kind of just browsing through Amazon one night and picked that one, and it turned out we picked a winner.
I wish my wife would watch horror movies with me.
My wife is the best. She loves horror movies, and we watch together all the time.
Damn it. My wife used to before she locked it down. Locked me down. She was like, "Oh I watch horror movies."
What did you make her watch to where she had to lock it down?
I think she just had a change in perspective. I think she did used to like horror movies and liked the excitement, but as she got older, she's just like, I don't want to deal with that anymore. I don't even know. It's like
your real life is
her
stressful
out.
enough.
Yeah, I don't know it's just I don't really understand that for some people. I guess I do to an extent, because there's certain I don't even know if it's the movie that does it, but there has to be a certain night where I'm in a certain mood, and it's a certain movie, and it's really late, and I just get done watching that movie. Then if everything is right, sometimes I am a little freaked out, and I'll even have a nightmare or two that night. Mm-hmm. And as an adult, nightmares are just annoying. They're not wake up and I'm actually
no, it's
think I'm gonna die.
No,
but it's
I've only had one genuinely scary nightmare in years. It was just a few months ago.
Really?
It happens very, very rarely.
Okay, come on.
Now
I got
let's
to
hear it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. Well, we had just moved into our new house, and I had a dream that I was asleep in my new bedroom. I didn't know I was asleep right away, because the setting was my very bedroom. And I have Amazon Alexa, you see, and the Alexa started giggling at me in the middle of the night.
I hear a movie idea. I'm writing this down.
You should start, and then we can give Stallone a writing credit.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I turned over to hear her giggling, and I noticed I could see I have a dresser mirror, and the mirror's pointed at the door to the bedroom. So I could see through the mirror that the door to the bedroom had been open, and that a red light was coming from the hallway. And I sat up in bed, and now the giggling wasn't coming from Alexa, it was coming from the hallway. And I saw the shadow of a little girl running back and forth between the guest bedrooms through the hallway in the red light. Immediately, I covered my eyes with my bed sheets, and I prayed it was just a dream, and then I woke up alive the next morning. So I guess, if I'm honest with you,
you don't know if it was a nightmare.
I guess I don't know that it was a nightmare. Now that I think of it, maybe it wasn't.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I probably get one every, 6 months, 3 months. There's 6 months. It hasn't happened in a while, actually, come to think about it, where I will wake up from a nightmare and just freaked out. I knew I just had a nightmare, but still, I don't know. I go to take a piss, and I'm looking over my shoulder and looking around. I'm fuck. And then I'm a little bit nervous to go back to sleep, because I know I'm just going to, if I don't give myself some time or think about something different for 10 minutes, I'm just going to slip right back into it again.
Yep.
So anyways, I do understand that stress. If that happens to you every single time you watch a horror movie, then
I'd stop.
Maybe I wouldn't watch horror movies. But there's no way that's what's happening. It's just that I don't even know. I don't understand people who don't like horror movies.
Yeah, I don't trust them either.
Yeah. Anyways,
what did we watch? We didn't actually talk about what we watched.
What did you watch anything, Carmelo? It's been a while.
I went and saw Aquaman.
Oh, I almost did. It was good? I do like Momoa. I like me some Momoa.
Momoa was great. Amber Heard was great.
Oh, Patrick Wilson's in that, right?
Patrick Wilson's in it. He was great. There's actually a ton of little horror nods because James Wan directed it.
That's right. Yeah, Wilson is like a game changer for me. Like, I wasn't gonna go see that in theaters. We almost went New Year's Eve, and I was looking at movies. I was like, nothing. It's just nothing really jumped out at me. Like Aquaman, it looks pretty good, and blah blah. I've told you guys before, I don't get all off on superhero movies, so I was sort of like, But then I rewatched the preview, and I didn't realize that Patrick Wilson was in it, and that like pretty much did it for me. I was like, oh, I'll go see it. But I didn't. Yeah. I didn't though. Yeah.
You should. You won't be disappointed. It's very good. I enjoyed it a great deal, and I won't go on and on about it, but I really recommend it.
All right. Check it out. Was that it?
What the heck else? What else did I watch? Besides Gremlins 2. No, I think that's it for me this week. Yep.
Robbie, what'd you watch?
I watched Bird Box.
I did too.
Should I see it? What's the verdict?
Yeah, I think it was good. Who cares if Sandra Bullock isn't as hot as you want her to be, Rob? It's just not about that.
I think we all know what I'm going to say about it.
That Sandra Bullock is haggard and washed up?
No, I mean, I think she's just fine the way she is, but like you can't be like 68 years old and having kids.
I don't think she's 68. I think she's like 48.
Well,
or 55 maybe.
You can't do it. But no, I mean, it was good. It kind of suffered for me, similar to that Forrest Whitaker apocalypse movie that was on Netflix.
Yeah, the ending. What was that called?
Like This Is the End or something like that.
Except it wasn't that, because that was the funny one.
Yeah, it just the ending of that movie just was a little
let you down.
It kind of let me down. But for the most part, I actually really did like it. I thought Sandra Bullock did a really, really good job in the movie, actually.
Yeah.
I liked the creepiness of it. I guess, I mean, a lot of people can draw a lot of parallels to this and that John Krasinski horror movie and The Happening.
Quiet Place, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because it shows you right there, like they have to keep their eyes closed or blindfolded, whereas Quiet Place, you can't. It's kind of a little too close, but I mean, it was a good movie. It's probably one of the better Netflix produced movies out there right now, or Netflix originals.
Whether you like it or not, you have to respect them because it has mad hype around it, and it really is. In the world of filmmaking, they say you can have high concept to sell the film, or you can have like a bunch of money and star actors. Well, this obviously did have some star actors with Sandra Bullock and John Malkovich, and it even had MGK in it. But
John Malkovich was really good in it.
Yeah. But it was sort of high concept. It was like it's something that, like, if you hear just the basic premise, like some kind of entity that if you look at it, you literally go crazy and kill yourself instantly. So you have to. It's just a world now where you can't look when you're outside. That's pretty, like, you just hear that and you're like, I want to watch that.
Yeah, I actually really, like I said, I really liked it. I definitely recommend it. I was going to watch Halloween 2018, but it's like still currently you have to buy it to watch it on Amazon, and I'm not investing $20 in that movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would watch.
Pretty much about it.
Yeah, I'd watch Bird Box. Why not? I think a lot of people are just saying they don't like it because that's what they want to be cool. But I
don't really see how you can dislike it. It's not a bad movie. It may not be. Every one of these movies, that's like the whole thing. Like The Nun, which I did watch The Nun. I did watch that actually, and it was pretty good. But. It's just really weird marketing. It's like the most scariest thing in the world. Well, no, it's not. It's The Nun. I know it's not. Like, none of the Conjurings to me were scary. None of this is going to be scary. It's
Conjuring was sort of scary.
I mean, it was, but it's not. It's not terrifying.
I just get the willies from female possession. That's all.
And it's like the Bird Box thing. It's like, this is going to change your. This is like the greatest of all time, and Netflix said it had like 45 million viewers, but Netflix doesn't release their metrics or their viewership, so who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just a good movie. Now I know you're not going to market like, hey, come see it. It's just a good movie. But people that are complaining that it's not the greatest thing in the world, it's like, well, it's no shit. It's not going to be the greatest thing in the world. And I did start to watch Happy, which is fucking amazing.
All right.
Oh God, Christopher Maloney. I
don't even know what Happy is.
Oh, Happy is about like a burned out ex-cop who turned mafia hitman, and he drinks. He's got a bad heart.
Okay,
all this stuff, and this girl gets kidnapped, and her imaginary friend, which is like this weird unicorn thing, who's voiced by Patton Oswalt, finds him. So like, it's just really funny, and it is like over the top violent. I mean, it is just blood and guts everywhere. If you like horror, I think you're gonna like this just for the fun.
I'll check it out.
Just for fun gore. It's really good.
All right. Well, yeah, that's all I've watched. I think too was Bird Box. So I've just been so busy with the holidays. But so yeah. Well, cool. I think that wraps us up. Make sure you get your memes in next week. We'll announce what we're doing a day or two ahead of time. Thanks for joining us, Carmelo. Appreciate you filling in.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Again, a very public apology. I didn't mean to talk over you earlier about you were talking about the dolls. I didn't.
No.
I wrapped up your thought. I apologize. I really thought we said
Rob's just giving you
dolls.
Shit.
Yeah, I know.
I don't care at all.
He's feeling very threatened, but he doesn't know how much I love him.
I'm only threatened because I've caught my wife looking at your Facebook.
Oh boy.
She did just send me a friend request recently, so that comment's a little real. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for having me. I hope the audience enjoys having me on the show from time to time. I haven't scared off your listeners. So
of course not. Well, check Carmelo out with us on Cult Classic Action Show, where we will be doing Bloodsport probably in the next week here, maybe 2 weeks here, to catch the beginning/middle of the month. So yeah, check us out there, patreon.com/cultclassichorror. Follow me at Danny Bonin, Rob O'Neill at O'Neilio, 4 O's. You can find Carmelo at chimerascomics.com, right? Anywhere else?
Yeah. Our Facebook community is big, so you can join the Chimeras Comics community Facebook group, or you can connect with my Chimeras Comics Facebook pages, or just send me a friend request, Carmelo Chimera. There's not a lot of us on Facebook, so
no, I wouldn't think so.
Just not a lot of period.
All right, guys. Yeah, at Cult Classic Horror and at CC Horror on Twitter. And cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next week.
See ya.
Don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Oh, yes. There will be blood.